Sarah Thompson stood planted in the middle of the quiet street like a traffic cop who'd just spotted a felon, her smartphone raised high as if documenting a crime scene. The late afternoon sun caught the edge of her oversized sunglasses, turning them into little mirrors that reflected my own driveway back at me. "You need to move that vehicle immediately," she announced, each word sharp enough to cut glass. I stepped out of my pickup slowly, keys still in hand, and kept my tone level, the way you talk to someone who's clearly used to being obeyed. "This is my driveway, ma'am. I live here." She didn't blink. "If you don't comply right now," she said, lifting her phone higher, "I'm dialing 911. What Sarah Thompson didn't realize, what she had apparently never bothered to verify, was that the only thing that actually mattered in that moment wasn't her clipboard full of covenants, conditions, and restrictions. It was a single line in a 30-year-old deed recorded at the county courthouse. Because this narrow strip of asphalt we were standing on wasn't HOA roadway at all. It was private property, and the entire right-of-way, from the faded marker at the entrance all the way to the edge of my garage, belonged to me. Let me take you back to how ordinary this all started. Our subdivision sits on the western edge of a mid-sized Midwestern city. Think split-level ranches, basketball hoops over garages, American flags on porches from Memorial Day through Labor Day. The front half of the neighborhood looks like it came straight out of a real estate brochure. Fresh seal coat on the main loop, uniform mailboxes, flower beds edged with brick pavers. But if you keep driving past the brick entrance monument and the community pool, the pavement gradually changes. The blacktop gets older, the patches more obvious, the shoulders a little ragged. There's no city street sign at my corner, just a weathered wooden post someone hammered into the ground decades ago. No reflective green nameplate, just Maple Lane in peeling letters. My house is the last one on the right before the road dead ends at a small wooded ravine. I bought the place 15 years ago after my divorce, specifically because it felt tucked away. No through traffic, no nosy neighbors staring over fences, just quiet. I liked that the driveway was long enough to park both my truck and the old fishing boat without anyone writing me a nasty note about visual blight. Most days it stayed exactly that way. Peaceful, until the Thursday afternoon Sarah decided my F-150 was an eyesore and a public safety hazard. I had just pulled in after picking up lumber for a deck repair project. Engine off, radio silent, windows down to let the spring air move through the cab. I was halfway out the door when I heard her heels clicking on the asphalt. "Excuse me," she called, already marching toward me with purpose. Phone in one hand, the other gesturing like an air traffic controller. "That vehicle cannot remain there." I glanced down at the concrete slab under my tires. "It's my driveway." "No," she corrected, as though I'd mispronounced my own address. "This is HOA roadway. Emergency access only. Fire lanes must remain unobstructed. Vehicles are to be garaged. It's in the covenants, Article 7, Section 4.2. I looked past her. The road was wide enough for 2 full-size pickups to pass with room to spare. No yellow curb paint, no parking signs, no fire hydrant within 50 yards. Just quiet asphalt and birds chirping in the oaks. "I'm parked on my own property," I said again, still calm. Her jaw tightened. "Appearances matter in this community, and safety matters more. You're blocking potential emergency vehicle access." I almost laughed, almost. Instead I asked, "Has an ambulance ever needed to come down here?" "That's not the point," she snapped. "Rules exist for a reason." She raised her phone and began photographing my license plate. Narrating for the video, she was clearly recording. "Homeowner refusing to comply, vehicle obstructing, emergency route, non-compliant behavior documented." Then came the line that changed everything. "I've already authorized the tow company," she said, almost smiling now. "They'll be here shortly." I closed the truck door with a soft click and leaned against the fender. "You called a tow truck for a car, sitting in its own driveway?" "Yes," she replied, as though I'd asked the dumbest question imaginable. "Because some people think the rules don't apply to them." I took a slow breath. "Ma'am, I'm not moving the truck. This is my land." Her expression shifted from irritation to something closer to triumph. "Then I have no choice. She tapped her screen. I'm calling the police. For a split second, the neighborhood went perfectly still. Somewhere down the block, a lawnmower droned. A cardinal called from the treetops, and Sarah Thompson dialed 911 on speakerphone so I could hear every word. 911. What's your emergency? Yes. Hello. This is Sarah Thompson, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association Board. We have a resident who is aggressively refusing to move an illegally parked vehicle that is blocking emergency access on our community roadway. He's non-compliant, and I need officers dispatched right away. Aggressively? I hadn't raised my voice once. She hung up, folded her arms, and gave me the look people reserve for someone who's about to learn a hard lesson. They're on their way. I nodded once. Good. That one word seemed to confuse her more than anything else I'd said. While we waited, she paced a slow circle in the street, phone still recording, occasionally glancing toward nearby windows where curtains twitched. She narrated again for the invisible audience. This is exactly the kind of selfish behavior that lowers property values, safety, hazard, blatant disregard for community standards. A garage door rumbled open 2 houses down. Old Mr. Harlan stepped out, hands in his pockets, squinting at the scene. Sarah turned on the charm instantly. Mr. Harlan, just so you know, I've called the authorities. There's an emergency access violation here. Harlan looked at my truck, then at the empty road, then back at Sarah. He didn't say a word. He just shook his head once, slowly, and disappeared back inside. The garage door closed with a mechanical thud. Sarah's smile tightened. Minutes later, the tow truck rounded the corner, big white flatbed, amber lights pulsing lazily. The driver, a stocky man in a Carhartt jacket, climbed down and approached with the caution of someone who's walked into HOA drama before. Sarah intercepted him immediately. This one, she said, pointing. Unauthorized parking, emergency access obstruction, tow authorized by the association. The driver, his name tag read Mike, looked at me, then at her. Vehicle registered to you, sir? Yes. He turned back to Sarah. You got written authorization from the property owner? It's HOA property, she insisted. We maintain the road. We enforce the covenants. Mike rubbed the back of his neck. Ma'am, I don't hook up unless I have clear authority. Who owns this road? Sarah's voice rose half an octave. The association owns it. Before Mike could answer, a single siren chirp cut through the air. A black and white patrol car eased down the street and stopped. Officer Ramirez stepped out, mid-40s, calm eyes, the kind of officer who's handled 1,000 neighborhood squabbles and still has patience left. He took one look at the scene. Me leaning against my truck, Sarah filming, Mike holding a clipboard, tow hook dangling. All right, he said. Somebody tell me what's going on. Sarah launched in immediately, blocking access, refusing directives, aggressive behavior, safety violation, tow authorized. Officer Ramirez listened without interrupting, then turned to me. Sir, I pulled into my own driveway, I said. She says it's HOA roadway. I say it's mine. The officer glanced down the empty street. No paint, no signs, no obvious hazard. Then asked the single question that unraveled everything. Who owns this road? Sarah answered first, quick and confident. The Willow Creek Homeowners Association. We maintain it, plow it, patch it. It's community property. Officer Ramirez didn't nod. He just looked at her. Do you have documentation showing the association owns the road? She hesitated, the first real crack in her armor. We've always. Ma'am, he interrupted gently. I need to see proof of ownership or a recorded easement. Otherwise, I can't enforce private parking rules here. I spoke up. Officer, my closing documents are inside. I can show you. Sarah snapped. You can't just walk away from this. Officer Ramirez raised a hand. Let the man get his paperwork. I walked into the house, grabbed the thick manila envelope from the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet, and came back out. I spread the documents across the hood of my truck. Recorded deed with legal description, certified survey with boundary lines stamped by a licensed surveyor, county GIS parcel map pulled up on my phone. I pointed. This is my parcel. See the right-of-way? It's included, deeded to me before the subdivision was even platted. The HOA lots start on the other side of this line. Officer Ramirez leaned in, tracing the lines with his finger. Sarah leaned in too, searching for a flaw she could exploit. The officer straightened. "Looks pretty clear to me." He turned to Sarah. "Ma'am, if this gentleman owns the road, the association has no jurisdiction to tow vehicles here or enforce parking restrictions unless you can produce a recorded easement or other legal instrument granting you that authority." Sarah opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "But we collect maintenance fees." "Maintenance isn't ownership," I said quietly. Officer Ramirez gave a small nod. "Exactly." He looked at Mike. "You're clear to leave, sir. No tow today." Mike didn't need to be told twice. He climbed back into the cab, the flatbed rumbling away down the street. Sarah stood frozen for a long beat. Then she turned to me, eyes blazing behind those sunglasses. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Not even close." She stormed off, thumbs already flying across her phone screen. By the next morning, my inbox had 6 violation notices, each one more aggressively worded than the last. Fines accruing daily. Threats of liens. Attorney review pending. I printed them all, laid them beside my deed packet, and started writing. Certified letter. Return receipt requested. Subject: dispute of all notices / demand for proof of authority. I disputed every allegation. I demanded suspension of enforcement. I requested every document they had that supposedly gave them jurisdiction over my road. Recorded easements, dedication plats, county filings, board minutes where the road was designated emergency access, towing contracts. I attached copies of my deed, survey, GIS map, and the incident number from Officer Ramirez's report. Then I did something else. I installed 2 small, professionally made signs at the entrance to my section of the road. Private road, not HOA property. Unauthorized towing will be reported to law enforcement. I photographed them from multiple angles, time-stamped, geotagged. 3 days later, the board scheduled a compliance hearing. The notice said I was required to attend, that I was creating safety hazards, interfering with association operations, refusing lawful directives. They even floated the possibility of seeking an emergency injunction. I showed up with a binder 3 inches thick. The clubhouse meeting room was half full, mostly curious neighbors who'd heard whispers. Sarah sat at the head table like a judge, flanked by 2 other board members. She opened with a prepared statement about protecting community standards and ensuring emergency access for all residents. And she pointed at me. "This homeowner is attempting to undermine the entire association by claiming private ownership of a community roadway." I stood when it was my turn. "Sarah," I said evenly, "if this road belongs to the HOA, why do board members park on it every time we have a meeting or a holiday party?" I opened the binder and laid out 8 color photos, time-stamped over the past 2 years. Sarah's own SUV angled across the asphalt. Another board member's minivan parked overnight. Several guest vehicles lined up during last year's block party. The room went quiet. Sarah's voice rose. "Those are isolated incidents." "Selective enforcement," someone muttered from the back. A retired accountant named Ed, the association treasurer, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He cleared his throat. "I think we need to address something else." He looked straight at Sarah, then at the room. "For at least 8 years, we've been allocating a portion of dues to road maintenance and reserve funds for this section of Maple Lane. We did so under the assumption that we controlled access and maintenance responsibility." A woman in the 3rd row gasped. "You mean we've been paying for a road the association doesn't own?" Ed nodded slowly. "That appears to be the case." The meeting dissolved into controlled chaos. People pulled out phones, opened banking apps, started scrolling through years of statements. Voices rose, not shouting, but insistent. "Audit. Refund. How much? What else have they been charging us for?" Sarah tried to gavel the noise down. This is not the time. But it was too late. The illusion had cracked. 2 nights later, at 2:14 a.m., my porch camera pinged. Motion alert. I opened the live feed on my phone. Headlights creeping down the road. A tow truck, different company this time, idling near my driveway. A figure stepped out from behind a parked sedan. Phone raised. "Sarah." I slipped on shoes, grabbed my phone, and walked outside. The tow driver froze when he saw me. "Sir." "Stop," I said firmly. I held up my phone, screen bright, GIS map, parcel lines glowing, road clearly inside my boundary. "This is private property. You have no authority here. If you hook my truck, I will file a civil suit for conversion and trespass. Your company will be named." Sarah stepped forward. "You were warned. This is enforcement." The driver looked between us, then at the screen again. He exhaled. "I'm not doing it." He climbed back into the cab. The truck reversed slowly, taillights fading down the road. Sarah stood alone in the dark, phone still recording. "The board will pursue legal action," she said, voice shaking with fury. "You'll regret this." I didn't answer. I just went inside and immediately filed an incident report with the sheriff's non-emergency line. Sent certified trespass notices to the HOA, to Sarah personally, and to the tow company. Forwarded everything, video clip, timestamps, prior correspondence, to my attorney. The dominoes fell faster after that. Another packed meeting. This time a clubhouse was standing room only. Sarah tried to regain control, but the attorney the board had hastily hired, a silver-haired man in a crisp suit, kept placing a steadying hand on her arm. When residents demanded answers about the road fees, the attorney attempted the classic pivot. Maintenance responsibility can be separate from ownership. I stood. Correct. But responsibility doesn't grant enforcement authority. You cannot tow vehicles, issue fines, or call police for parking on land you do not own and have no recorded interest in. The room murmured agreement. Then Ed, the treasurer, stood again. "I have to correct the record," he said, voice steady now. "The association has collected approximately $187,000 in road-related assessments over the past 9 years on a roadway segment we do not legally control." A low roar went through the crowd. Sarah shouted, "This is chaos. This man is spreading misinformation." The attorney cut her off. "Ms. Thompson, please." Later in the meeting, he made the announcement that ended her reign. Effective immediately, all enforcement actions related to the disputed roadway are suspended pending independent legal review and audit. Furthermore, I will not be representing Ms. Thompson in any individual capacity arising from these matters. Sarah's face went blank. She sat down hard. Within 10 days, she resigned. Letter posted on the community portal, no explanation, no farewell potluck. Just effective immediately. The association issued a formal notice. All violation notices rescinded. All fines refunded with interest. Towing contract terminated. Written acknowledgement that the association possesses no enforcement authority over the private right-of-way. Budget line items reclassified. Updated plats and disclosures added to every owner's portal. An independent audit followed. Credits appeared on statements the next quarter. New policies required documented jurisdiction before any enforcement action. A small sign went up at the entrance. Not aggressive, just factual. Private road. Not association property. No unauthorized enforcement. I still pull into that same driveway every evening. The asphalt hasn't changed. The patches are still there. But the air feels different now, lighter, quieter. No more cameras pointed at my truck. No more violation letters in the mailbox. Just a neighborhood that finally remembered the difference between rules and rights. Overreach only survives in the shadows of assumption. Bring light, bring records, and it collapses. What about you? Have you ever dealt with an HOA, a boss, a neighbor, or any authority figure who acted like their word was law, until someone quietly proved otherwise? Where do you draw the line between standing up for what's right and escalating into unnecessary conflict? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one.